Hello!
Hi,
Welcome back to Tea and a Chat with...
Harry and Zara.
I'm Pat. My dad, bless him. Hi Dad, I know you're listening. Hi Dad. He came up with the idea of, well, we've been talking about getting a pet, haven't we?
We have.
And maybe, well, at first we were like, let's get cats, and now we want a dog. But anyway, my dad came up with that idea of calling the pet when we finally get it Pat. And I love that. Because then it can be Harry, Zara and Pat. And then if it's a dog, Pat the dog. That's so funny. No?
I mean, yeah. Do you want to call it Pat?
It depends if it looks like a Pat. If it looks like a Pat.
That's true.
Or we could just nickname it Pat.
The thing is, there still would be no contribution to the podcast from Pat, even if Pat becomes a being.
Pat could be like the face of the podcast.
But it's a podcast. Okay.
Get a pug, and it can become a pugcast.
Oh.
Anyway.
Wow. You know, I've just had, like, if someone has just started listening to this podcast for the very first time and started on this episode, they're going to be like, what is this?
Oh, maybe we should explain. So Pat is this...
Pat is no one.
No, he or she, they, them, are a being who don't technically exist, but they exist for the sake of Squirts Academy podcast, yes?
No, let's talk about this in a different way. So, you just wanted it to rhyme.
Tea and a Chat with Harry and Pat.
Yeah, which...
Or it could be Zara and Pat.
Yeah, Pat is... we do not know a Pat. We've got no...
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat. Oh. And we could get a black and white cat.
The cat's called Jess.
Early in the morning. Okay, moving on. So, Harry, what?
No, let's just clarify. Pat is just... The name Pat came from the rhyme.
Yeah.
And
it stuck.
That's it. It stuck because you insisted it sticks.
Yes. Okay. What drink do you have today, Harry?
I have got a peppermint tea in a fox mug. Don't know why that's important, but I quite like this mug.
That was a gift.
It was a gift. It's a fox with a moustache and glasses and a green hat and a bow tie. It's actually quite cool. I've never really studied it that much.
I have a chai in a Central Park coffee cup on my Friends Stands Unite. Yeah, Harry? Yeah?
Oh, me? Yeah, sorry.
He's not really a Friends fan, but...
No, I was actually taking a sip of my tea and very consciously trying to make sure it doesn't make a sound.
It's hard when you think about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When you are thinking about, like, taking a swallowing something or chewing something, it's like it just... You turn it up rather than doing the reverse, so I was really focused on that. Anyway,
we're babbling. It's not the Christmas special yet.
We babble every episode, regardless.
Okay, what are we chatting about today, Harry?
We are talking about redefining success.
What does success mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite insightful, I think. Because I don't think a lot of people are going to think about what success is to them as an individual. I think quite often, and generally this is what the podcast is going to be about today anyway, but quite often people are going to be looking at elsewhere and using a comparative as success. And I guess this is more about how successful you are as an individual based on your own goalposts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We sort of took a lot of these ideas from a blog post I wrote ages ago, which will now be on the Quartz Academy post when this is out, and the Quartz Academy blog, so you can head over to the website and see that. But yeah, if you want to listen to us, here we are. Anyway, so I guess this is important to talk about because the industry as it is just so full of comparison, and there's so many layers of that, like especially with social media now,
Yeah.
You don't even have to be in the industry to just open your phone and you're instantly comparing yourself to...
We're always comparing all the time, aren't we? I guess in some respects it's how people compete and further themselves. However, I think the prominent face of comparison and these days sort of comes from primarily social media and how much gratification you get from posts and stories and videos, whatever else, TikTok.
Yeah.
But it's also making me think of things like Love Island and
Harry's favourite.
I love it. I really don't. No, but it's things like stuff like that is people are getting gratification through very different means. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's then promoted and put out into the world. And I think people somewhere in their psyche or subconscious will take that and think, well, that's a way of being successful.
Yeah.
You know? And obviously there's elements of success for people who are on programs like that, you know, afterwards and whatever, and business wise. But in my opinion, I don't see it as the best or the healthiest mental way of looking at a successful idea or ideal.
But then again, that's what we're going to talk about. So everyone's versions of success is different. So if your idea of success is going on Love Island and having that sort of business set up for you after when you come out, then great. But like, it would be a waste of Harry's time to compare himself to that and be like, well, I don't have millions of pounds like those Love Islanders do. I'm not as successful as them. When it's not really what you want to do anyway.
No, I find the premise of the programme quite challenging.
That's another podcast, darling.
It is. I know, I'm trying not to bite because I could really go.
I know, but it's not really.
No. Well, I'm not, so.
Okay, good job. Anyway, so I guess the idea is, are you comparing yourself to someone else's version of success? What does success mean to you? And
well, let's put that back into a performing context. So you, a new performer, you're an old performer, and are you comparing yourself to people who are perhaps going up for similar roles as you in the West End, say, as an example? Are you comparing yourself to your peers, your friends, people in, you know, quote unquote similar situations?
I think like being a graduate is a great example of that, because you're in like a group of people who you've all gone through the same training and you're all like sort of in the same place, but at the same time you're all completely different. No one can do what you can do, how you do it, and vice versa. So, and what they say is successful might be different to you. So what I mean by that is maybe someone really wants to go on cruise ships and do cruise ships. Maybe someone wants to be in the West End, and maybe someone wants to go to Butlins and work in Butlins, and for them working in Butlins is they're successful and they've made it, and for someone else it's only the West End and that's the goal they have, and that's fine if that's their goal. But you know that if the Butlins person was comparing themselves to the West End person, they'd be like, well, I haven't done that, you know, like it's completely different.
Or I guess on a spin of that, it's whether they're, you know, if you only seem to be getting work in a certain area, but you want it in another, and the person you know or a friend or a colleague or whatever is getting a lot of work in that area that you want to be in, and you're like, well, I'm not being very successful, even though you're working, just not in the area you want to be working in. You feel that's what you just said?
No, I think we went from different places, but both make sense.
I guess that's the point, though, isn't it? There's so many different factions is outward looking, isn't it? Looking outwardly at those around you. And
I think that's the thing. I think that before we get into anything else in this podcast, everyone needs to sit for a minute and think, what does success mean to me? Like, what is successful? Is being successful, you know, having lots of money, having a dog, a family, having a job that, like, just any job that pays the bills, having, like, what is success to you? What would success look like in your world? And I think it can be hard as a performer to think about that for yourself and not be like, oh, well, everyone else is getting jobs on cruise ships, so that's what's successful, you know?
Absolutely, I agree.
But yeah, I've got a note here that says, worrying what people think is stupid.
It's true. We all do it though. Everybody's thinking. I guarantee anyone who's listening to this, or everyone at some stage in your life, has walked down a street, and as you're walking, you're thinking about how you look, or maybe how you walk, or like what people in and around that street are thinking of you. And I'm very confident that the majority of the people are thinking the same things, and no one's actually looking at anybody else and thinking
everyone's
this,
in
that,
their
whatever.
world.
But we're all thinking inwardly, but in seeking outward gratification.
And I think that's a helpful tool to think about when we're working out what's success is to you, because the question is, why do you want it? Do you want it so that you can post on Instagram and get loads of comments and everyone be like, well done, like that's success in their eyes, so they're commenting and saying well done? If that's why you want it, then, and that's like one of the main reasons / sole reasons you want it, then that's, you're not doing that for you, you're doing it so you can get gratification from the world, you know? And I think, well, I guess to me that this is where success doesn't come from people commenting on your Instagram posts, but maybe to some people it does.
I think as well with social media, it's so fickle, isn't it? One day you can get plus however many followers, and the next day half of those followers can unfollow you. So it's so up and down, and that, I think the pressure to be consistent in the delivery of what you're doing will affect. I don't know. It's you're placing your goalposts based on reaction, which I think isn't an unjustified way of thinking about things. But if you're always letting yourself be judged by other people, like someone may wake up and have a bad day and be like, no, I don't like this today, and like it another. Whereas if you're allowing yourself to be like, I'm setting these goalposts here, and when you achieve that thing,
exactly.
I think that's a more practical, beneficial way of moving forward in redefining your success.
I think we've spoken about this on the podcast before, and we probably will speak about it forever to come, because it's something we find we've spoken about before, just us as well. But the whole question of you know, when you meet someone for the first time or whatever, someone you don't really know, and you tell them you're a dancer, an actor, a performer, and they're like, oh my god, what shows have you been in? Like, have you? Oh, you're auditioning for the soaps? Are you? You know, what have you done that I'll know? Because to them, success is their little world of what they know. You know, it's their little. We hate that question, don't we?
Well, it's a difficult question, isn't it? Because it's again, that success is defined for you based on that person's opinion, but that doesn't mean anything really. Unless you allow it to.
I know. It's like, actually, Karen, I get up at 7 a.m. to go to Bali every morning, and that's pretty successful if you ask me. I don't care that I've not been in EastEnders.
Damn right. No, I think that's fair. Yeah.
But it's just a good example of like, we hate getting asked that question, because it's suddenly like, oh, well, I don't have anything to tell them, so I must not be successful. You know, it's that sort of.
It's not even that it's that. It's not because it's not that you don't have things to tell them.
No, but they would know, and that's the question. That's what I
mean. And this is the thing. Everyone's again watching or doing their own. Like if you're in the performing world, you're gonna go watch shows you like. You're gonna go watch TV programs and films you like, or whatever. Like each audience member will look at their own thing they enjoy. So. Or unless it's something that's obviously really, really big. But if you don't fall into a category of what they enjoy, they're not going to recognise that as something that isn't necessarily successful, but they're just not going to recognise it as a thing. So it doesn't mean that you're not successful or to either party. It's just, I don't know. It's familiarity.
It's that feeling in that moment, though, that I'm talking about, when you get asked that question, and they're very specific in their wording of it, of what have you done that I will know?
It's a funny question, isn't it, when you think about it? Because how are you supposed to know what they know? You assume that they're going to be talking about the big thing. So maybe that's actually an interesting point in itself.
Yeah.
Because there's the assumption that, they must be talking about, no, I haven't done a great big blockbuster film, or no, I haven't featured in Matthew Bourne's whatever.
Go on, name one of Matthew Bourne's shows.
Swan Lake.
Good job. But yeah, you're right. It's just, and there's sort of pressure to follow everyone else as well. That I definitely felt that when I graduated. It was like everyone else is doing this, and they seem to be happy posting all their jobs on social media. And
I think also in the performance world, though, fame is very much considered success, which obviously it is to an extent, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're unsuccessful if you're not famous.
Exactly.
Because there's also different levels of fame, I feel, as well. There's performers who are famous within certain factions of the industry, as well as that you get West End performers, and then even within that you'll have West End performers who are more likely to do plays or musicals or whatever. So where do you draw? You know what I mean? I'm a celebrity of West End musicals, or I'm a blockbuster film. Do you know what I mean? It's very different. Obviously, those factions tend to merge a bit as well, but
then that's again why it's so important to know what success is to you, and then on the other end of that, to celebrate that success, even if no one else is. Even because if you look at your life right now, there will be a list of things that is successful, that you can be, whether however big or small. Like, there's so many things that you could look at and be like, I was successful doing that. That makes me a successful person. Like, I have money, I have a house, do you know what I mean?
Well, I think
I auditioned for drama school, and it's like,
you look back thinking about, I don't know, however old you may be. For me, I'm 27. If I go back to thinking about 7-year-old Harry and what he thought, where I would be 20 years on, he probably wouldn't have thought of it, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? That question, if you think back to where you were 10, 20 years ago and where you are now, you'll be able to say whether you've actually achieved something. And achieving something is successful.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long or the journey. If you've done it, you've done it. And take pride in that.
Like, if you could go back and tell 7-year-old Harry about what you're doing now, he'd be like, whoa, that's so cool.
He would
we were so successful.
Like,
we were so...
How am I going to get there?
But it's true, though. Like, that's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Well, we don't often... Oh, that's the neighbour's dog doing its protecting business. No, but we don't often, I think... We didn't know we'd have a guest on this podcast.
Maybe it's Pat.
It's not Pat. No, but I don't think we often look back and think we're so caught up in the here and now and the near future and maybe the further future that we don't necessarily give ourselves time to reflect and think about, God, you know what? I've come a long way. I think that goes for anyone in anything. Because we know not everyone listening to this is a performer. And everyone listening to this can look back and think, pause this podcast right now. Pause. If you're listening.
Or pause if you're in Scotland.
Yeah, do that. And as you do, think about 10 years ago and what you were doing at that time and compare it to where you are now.
We'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait. We're going to hold this for 10 minutes. We're not...
Joking. Pause now. Good job. Well done, everyone.
That was, I hope, if you've actually done this, I hope you recognise, something within yourself and you're actually like, wow, you know what, it's a Friday and I'm going to have 2 beers tonight.
Oh, we should have. Anyway, sorry, that's not relevant. Now's a good time to tell this story, actually. Now, I'm about to tell you a story which I learnt from a lady called Christy Lee Manning. We love Christy Lee Manning. If you don't know Christy Lee Manning, get to know Christy Lee Manning, especially if you're a dancer in and around the London area. She runs House of Jazz. Oh, so much. She's got her own podcast, Inside Out Theory. She has just so much going on. She's so busy. And I still swear that most of the stuff I know and speak about and preach about, I learnt from her. So, just go hear it from the horse's mouth over there.
You mentioned her before, I think, in previous podcasts.
Yeah, she's amazing. Go check her out.
She is.
Anyway, she told me this story during one of the House of Jazz cycles, which she might have read it from a book actually, but I don't know. Anyway, she told me that there was this man. Do you remember his name?
Do you remember his name?
No.
People might not know the name anyway. Dave Mustaine.
Okay, that guy.
I hope I said that right.
He was part of the band Metallica, like back in the OG days. He was the lead guitarist, was he?
Yeah.
And he basically got kicked out of the band. And the story is that he sat on like this long journey home and was just so angry and so like annoyed, and he was like, do you know what, I am going to make a new band and I'm going to make sure this band is more successful than Metallica to get back at them. It's a big like FU to Metallica. He was going to make a band himself and it was going to be successful. Now, he did make a band and it was really successful, and he went on all these tours and he made loads of money and he had a wonderful life and house and wife and kids and whatever else. From the outside world, he looked like he had more success than the average person, But to him, what was his band called?
The one he made?
Yeah.
Megadeth.
So the moral of the story is that he never seen himself successful because he never beat Metallica's level of success, even though he had all this success around him and he was so successful, but he set his definition of success as, I need to be better than Metallica. And then
very specific. But I think there's many people who are guilty of that comparative definition of success.
It's funny to think about, and I think when I say that, I don't, because then part of me is like, oh well, if everyone just decides that their success is something not big, then everyone will be successful, which is not what I'm saying. It's about like finding what actually is genuine, authentically feels successful to you and going after it, setting goals that are inwardly focused, not outwardly. Like, don't have a goal of being able to post it on your Instagram. Have a goal of how you're going to feel when you get there. Have a goal of...
It's like the words that stood out to me is for you. It's for you. That's the premise, I think, that is important, because if you think, talking about that story, I think that it's not recognising, I'm not saying this is strictly the case, but I guess there's no necessary like recognition of how far he's actually come, because he's striving for what someone else has got. Yeah. So it's not for him per se.
Exactly, yeah. We've got a quote written down here, which is actually from me.
From you?
It says, from the blog. When we start to work towards someone else's version of success, we diminish all the work we've done to achieve our success thus far. Which I wholeheartedly believe in.
You're pretty cool, you are.
Why, thank you.
No, but that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't make you any less successful if you haven't made it in the eyes of somebody else. It's only you that can decide that,
Absolutely. It's true. It's really true. Because, I'm probably going to repeat something we've already said. But no. I think to have the power to look inwardly at what you're achieving and doing is really successful in its own right, though, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like I've already said, I don't think we often look inwardly in like a reflective way. And to acknowledge that is really significant in itself. I see that
really
as a term of success.
Successful in itself. You're right.
Yeah, because I just think, like I've already said, we're always on the go, we're always doing something. So it comes into, it's mental health as well, isn't it?
Mm.
I very much believe that if you recognise a behaviour or something, you give yourself the power to change it. So if you give yourself a period of, or some form of reflecting and understanding, you're allowing yourself to grow and understand where you've come and where you've been, which is very significant to your journey. You might take you on a completely different path as well, you never know.
It's a good way to think about it, and a good way to wrap things up, I think.
Yeah.
Or do you have something else you want to say?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is actually our last podcast in season 1.
Oh, God, yeah, it is. Yeah.
We're actually, this is episode 10, 11 sort of, but it's 10 because the first one didn't count.
Yeah, it will come out as episode 11, but that's only because episode 1 was talking about who we are and what the podcast would be about.
And we're going to have a little break.
Little break before we come
Well, not really, because we'll still be recording podcasts, but a break from posting.
There will be another, so spoilers.
Spoilers, yes, there is another season.
There will be another one somewhere down the line, before the end of the year. Because as Sarah actually mentioned at the beginning, I think we've had an idea for a little Christmas podcast we want to do. So that should be fun. That will be a bit different as well. It'll be a little bonus episode.
And we've got some exciting people hopefully getting involved in next season.
Yes, we'll be hopefully getting a couple more maybe to come along, have a little chat with us.
And a tea.
And most importantly, have a tea. But thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, we really appreciate you coming and joining us today. If you found that anything from this is like, oh yeah, I like that, go back and have a look at some of our other stuff and tune in for the next season. We really appreciate everyone who's listened to any or all of our podcasts up to now. We quite enjoy doing them, don't we?
We love doing our podcasts.
We're as a duo, we often chat a lot.
We're chatty beings.
So hopefully you've enjoyed chatting with us as well. I was thinking that, we won't know if they've been chatting or not. I don't listen to a podcast and talk back. Well, that actually depends what it is. But anyway, we're very grateful. Keep
up to date with what we're doing over on our social media.
Yes.
And we'll see you.
We'll see you very soon.
Very soon.
Keep an eye on our posts.
We love you. Bye.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to Tina Chat with Quartz Academy.
If you have any questions or things you want to know, visit our website at www.quartzacademy.co.uk or email us info@quartzacademy.co.uk.
You can also find us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok.
Thanks for listening.
We're so happy you're here.
Bye.